Welcome back, loyal fight fans and fanettes, to Boxing. Eat that shit up. I am your humble host, Tummy Tom O'Neill, the human body snatcher, and let's jump right in. Uh, First off, hit that subscribe button for us. Smash the hell out of that thumbs up button for us, and please tell a friend. I very much appreciate you guys watching. Got a good amount of views coming back. Um, Coming back from that last episode, we even got some fan questions that we'll get to. This is gonna be a good one, and we had some really good fights. Uh, so jumping right in, we'll start off on the Crawford versus Brook fight card, because this card had a couple good fights on it besides the main event, but then also had a very, very controversial uh, call decision by the commission, by the boxing commission, that really is going to fire me up. So you guys probably enjoy that. But first, I want to get into a good fight. We'll start off on a good note, okay? This kid Vegas Larfield, he looks pretty cool to watch. I'm going to keep my eye out for him. This is on the prelims here, so they're only 4-round fights for guys that have only had, 1 to 3 professional boxing fights thus far. But these guys are fighting on the prelims of this top-ranked card, that with a big main event, and they came out swinging. There was a couple of these fights, and honestly, a lot of times they're kind of lackluster, with these newer guys, but this was not that. These were two guys that were, you could just tell because they stood out from the pack. You could tell that they literally wanted to seize this opportunity of being on this card and being on ESPN, and really make a name for themselves. So Vegas Larfield took on Juan Flores. They both only have a couple professional fights, I think 2 apiece, or Vegas might have even only had 1 professional fight before this. But yeah, these guys came out slugging. It was a real banger. It was really good. Really good fight. Back and forth. There were knockdowns. There was just, right out of the gate in the first round. You couldn't tell who would win the fight because they were very back and forth, very competitive. Now that being said, as I stated before, these are some of their very first professional fights, so there's a lot of technique missing here. Tons of it, and this is why you continue on until you get better, and this is why the pros are the pros. But but this is normal, when you unless you have a stellar amateur career, with hundreds of fights, which only a few guys, have. This is kind of what a lot of times what you get. It's kind of lacking in technique because there's things to learn. That's why they only make them 4-round fights instead of 10 or 12, as well. But that being said, these guys were swinging. These guys were connecting with each other. They were checking each other's chin right off the bat in the first round. Good counter hooks from both guys. Good body work from both guys. And just a willingness to scrap in there. Both guys did not want to take a step back. And at times one would have to, but then they'd push forward. Nobody was circling the ring here or using any sort of ring management. They were just, it was a real, just measurement of their heart and who would back down first. So I enjoyed this one a lot. And Vegas Larfield comes away with the win after several knockdowns. This kid looks good. Other guy was Juan Flores was putting on a really good show in that first round, and then right after that, it all started going downhill. I believe it could have even ended in the second, but I think it ended in the third. But it could have even been the second. These guys were just scrapping for every second of this fight. But Vegas Larfield comes away with the KO in a really impressive showing. A really fun fight for fans to watch. So go and check that one out. But then, like I said, there's lacking some technique. Vegas, he hits pretty hard, it looks like. And that's an important thing. You can't sometimes teach how hard a guy can hit. You teach techniques to get a little better at it, but this guy has some natural power to him for smaller weight class guys. I believe this was bantamweight. I'm pretty sure this was bantamweight guys. But yeah, these were smaller guys either way, and this kid can crack. But when he does, when Vegas Larfield, that is, when he does very well. But then when he comes in with combinations and or a counter, and he's done following it up, he tends to back up with his chin up in the air and not keeping his guard up. And he got cracked a couple times coming out of the pocket like that. So he needs to tighten up on that. And that's just one note of many. But that's a big one. That's an easy fix. Just keep your guard up. Try to keep that chin down. But people have habits. It takes time to break. But very easy fix right away is like, hey, try to keep your chin down. But, if you have a habit, you put it up. At least get that guard up when you're backing up out of the pocket, man. And also, you never want to really take more than one step back. Like a kind of common rule in boxing is that you want to take, if you're taking a step back, you're either going to want to take one step back and a quick step to the side so that you're getting off of the angle. You never want to take two steps back, right? Because then somebody's just coming a beeline straight for you. You don't ever want to take two steps back because they're just coming for you and they will catch you. You can't just back straight up. So you either want to take one step back and then cut an angle to the side very, very quickly and kind of reset from there, or you take one step back and prepare to lay in a big counter shot while they're coming in. You never just back up straight backwards, and not be throwing stuff, especially when a guy's coming at you aggressively. But yeah, that was a really fun fight. Now I'm going to get fired up, okay? Now I'm going to get real fired up for a second here. Yeah. So we had Joshua Franco taking on Andrew Maloney. Andrew Maloney is from the Maloney twins out of Australia. They're good fighters. His brother just got a complete ass whooping to Inoue, the monster coming over from Japan a couple weeks ago that we touched on. That was his twin brother. This is Andrew Maloney, who was the champion at bantamweight. He was the WBA champion, and he lost his belt in a decision to Joshua Franco, who earned that decision. But Andrew Maloney, had said constantly through this, I mean, listen, people talk, they want their belt back, but they gave him this opportunity because he kept saying, I promise you guys, I was not myself. I don't know what was up with me. I felt sick, like I was even going to throw up when I was there in the ring. I don't know what was going on, and he didn't put on a great performance, but he went all the way and lost his belt in the decision. Now, this was his redemption, right? This is when he could prove that point that he was saying that he was not himself. He came out on fire, Andrew Maloney. He dominated every second of this fight. This was the co-main event. I was actually pretty stoked about watching this one. He dominated every second of this fight, right? And right out the gate. And the jabs were just there for him almost every time. It was ridiculous. And he made Joshua Franco look like, Jesus, how... people come back and can get a win if there's competitive fights, but how did this guy ever beat Andrew Maloney, this guy? Because he just made him look like one of these amateur kids or something that was put in here with a pro. He just demolished this guy. He won all the rounds, and then I think it went into the third round, right? It went into the third round. He owned every round, and he started tagging Joshua Franco. Just tagging the hell out of him with the jab that would snap his head way back when he was trying to come in on him, and he'd just get caught with that jab while moving inwards and snap his head way back. It was a dominant performance. Anyways, they stop the fight. They don't let Joshua Franco come out for the fourth round because the doctor stops the fight, saying that his right eye, right? This is important. His right eye was very completely closed, extremely swollen. And so they don't let him come out for this fourth round. Now, when he's sitting there and he goes, oh, Andrew Maloney's celebrating. He won the fight, right? The fight is stopped by the doctor, won't let the guy. Then there's a weirdness. Nobody's making anything official. Then they're saying there was an accidental headbutt, which caused this swelling. Now, there's a couple things that I really just want to get to here. I'm going to try to not spend a super long amount of time on this, but I'm really fired up about this. They, excuse me, they spent a half an hour of our time, of these fighters' time, making them sit in the ring where they watch these replays, okay? Now, this is a new thing in the Nevada State Commission, so when you're fighting in Vegas, this is a new thing that you're supposed to get to fix, bullshit problems like this, where you can have a replay. Now, there's a couple rules to this. You can't stop a fight and then have it started ever again. Once the fight is stopped, it's stopped. But this is the perfect, so there's still holes in the system, but this is what it was made for. This is this is what you put the replay goddamn thing in there for, is when the fight stopped, but you're saying it's a no contest because of a headbutt. Use the replay to make sure if there was a headbutt. They play the replays, there is no headbutt. First off, I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can, because really not making this simple is a catastrophe. This is where they kind of slide on stuff. This is simple. You do not need professionals to look at these. They showed us the replays for a half an hour. Then they said, oh, wait, let's show. So they showed the entire round, I think twice, but at least once. We watched the round, didn't see a headbutt. They showed the entire round, normal speed again. Then they said, oh, it's in this clip of 10 seconds. Then they took that clip and ran that 15 times over in slow motion to see if anybody can see a headbutt. There's clearly no headbutt. Okay? So first off, there is no headbutt on either side of the head, because a headbutt is a headbutt, right? There's no headbutt on either side of the head, but there is some head rubbing that goes on when they're in the clinch, and it's on the left side of his head, the left side, not the right side, where his eyes closed up. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These people in the commission, it makes me sick. It literally makes me sick. How long do you have to do these replays? And I'm hoping to myself, geez, this is a shit show. They are just wasting everybody's time. And for what? Are they really still going to say it's a headbutt? They've clearly shown everyone at home, blatantly, that there is no headbutt. And there's only head rubbing, and it's on the wrong side of the head. They show a jab that hits him straight in the eyeball, because the thumb part of the glove connects in the eyeball, and immediately swelling starts happening. That's a legal shot, okay? Unreal. Anyways, I'm done there. There's no headbutt, and they say it's a headbutt anyway, just because somebody said they saw a headbutt. And then, yet again, we get this in boxing. Then nobody wants to ever be wrong. So even when they're clearly wrong, and it's not as if the fans don't get a view in, we're watching what they're watching, for God's sake, for half an hour on these replays, and there's nothing that happens, and they rob Andrew Maloney, absolutely rob him, and not even a judge's decision. He batters the guy's eye until the doctor says, this kid can't come out and fight anymore, and they still find a way to rob a guy who has given everything. This guy lives in Australia, and when he came over here for this fight and lost the belt, he stayed here away from his family. He stayed here and trained here in Las Vegas so that he could get this opportunity again. He has a stellar performance, and they rob him anyway. And he stops his opponent. You can't even imagine how you could say somebody gets robbed out of that scenario. Guess what? It happened. That's just really fires me up, and I can't believe that. So they rob Andrew Maloney. Andrew Maloney won that fight. It's not Joshua Franco's fault, though. You know, he's just a fighter, and he's trying to, but the damn commit. But, you know, yeah, you're not the champion. Andrew Maloney is. He won that fight handedly, very handedly. We're not even talking about a decision here, for God's sakes. And then let's get off of that. Let's get on to the Terence Crawford versus Kell Brook fight. This was a good fight. Now, this fight, let me calm down here. This fight was a good fight. This fight, it did go kind of the way that I predicted, right? I made a prediction about not just the winner, but how the fight would turn out. It did happen in that way, but still, I don't consider myself to say, oh, I told you so, because it was a lot sooner than I thought. If you remember, I gave the prediction that the fight would start off and Kell Brook would be taking some rounds, and Kell Brook would actually surprise Terence Crawford with control, ring management, and being patient, picking his shots, countering him, so on and so forth, and using good distance management to not let Terence just come in on him and bully him. But then I said that I thought that as the rounds progressed later into the fight, Terence would be winning a couple rounds here or there, but then as the fight dragged on until the later rounds, he would take over, possibly get a stoppage, or even go to decision. It did go that way, but a lot quicker. So basically, round one, Kell Brook, he starts making that jab work for him right away. It's money every time. He's mixing it up to the head, to the body. He even has a good counter in this very first round as well. That goes to Kell Brook. Second round also goes to Kell Brook. Kell Brook is being very good about waiting. He's waiting to counter Crawford, and he has some success doing this. Also, he lands a good right uppercut in the second round. Definitely a Kell Brook round. Give that second round to him. Now, the third round is close. You could give this to Terence Crawford, because you can see Terence Crawford landing some more shots here. But when you're talking about, like, watching a fight and knowing how the fighters want to fight, and what they're trying to do in the ring as you're watching them, it's not just about like, oh, he's able to land some more shots finally here in this third round, which he was, which made it a close round. I still give that to, I ain't mad at you if you give that third to Crawford, but I give that third round to Kell Brook as well, so that he has all three rounds. But I think a lot of people gave Crawford this round, and that's totally fine with me. The thing is Crawford does have a better round here, but Kell's still landing, Kell's still controlling, Kell's still making the jab in specific work for him. And Terence Crawford lands some shots, but anything that he does to get into the pocket, he can't replicate. He can't do it again, so he's not getting any game plan going that will actually continue to work for him, though. He's just trying different things. Terence Crawford comes out in an orthodox stance for that first round, kind of gets swept, and then starts coming out in the southpaw stance, where he has a bit more power. So he's able to land some of these shots, but nothing too clean. So I'm literally thinking at this point, you could give him that round for sure, but this looks like Kell Brook is definitely taking the whole momentum of the beginning of this fight, all those beginning rounds. And then the fourth round happens, and it's just over, guys. Unbelievable. As far as technically, I really can't tell you. You'd have to ask Terence Crawford here. I can't tell you, because, again, he had a decent third round finally, but then it's not like he found something and, oh boy, that just works for him that we could see, or that I could see at least. He just comes out in this fourth round and then just puts him away. He just lands this big right hand and knocks Kell Brook way back to the ropes. And he didn't go down, but he's held up by the ropes. Then he comes in, quick combo. The ref stops it because he's kind of out on his feet and gives him a 10 count at on the ropes, even though he wasn't knocked down, because he was out on his feet. And then, he gets through that, comes back in, and Terrence Crawford, just being the finisher, he has another boom, another right hand, straight right, kind of a straight right or a right hook kind of deal. Sends him flying back against the ropes again. Then he gets him in the corner and just starts landing those chopping right hands in a combination to finish him off. And then it was just done. It's like, it was so sudden. As a matter of fact, Kell Brook goes back to his corner and asks, "What happened?" It was unbelievable, really. So yeah, that was a really good fight, and I did think Crawford would win, but it was unreal how he was just able. It looked like he couldn't get anything going. Then he's just, "Oh no, I'm done with this." I don't even know what to make of that one. And then we have some fan questions that I want to get to real quick too. Um, so from Leo, he asks, who you got if Devin Haney and what's the kid's name? Damn it, because I don't have it here on my Ryan Garcia. If Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fight, that's a good question, actually. I think that's a fight I like. I don't know that we see that fight, though, in particular. It's possible, because it's a very good fight to make. The reason I don't think that it happens, at least right now, is because you got two guys that are up-and-comers, right? They got two guys that are being talked about a lot. Two guys, I think both of them are undefeated, and they're trying to be built up as becoming big draws. So usually those guys don't get pitted against one another in the early stages of their career out of fear from the promotion that one of them will lose, and then you lose that cash cow kind of, or it's possible that you lose that cash cow. So unfortunately, I'm not sure we get to see that fight, but that would be a very good fight to see where both those guys are at. That I would love to see that. And that's a tough one, too. Devin Haney's real crisp boxing ability, I think, does a lot for him in lasting through this fight. I think he definitely makes it hard for Ryan to put him away. But Ryan Garcia hits very hard. For being a smaller guy too, he is very fast and he hits very hard. He's extremely fast. So I would lean towards Ryan being able to get some stuff done, as long as his cardio holds up enough to go all 12. I think that you obviously want to take your opponent out at all times, but I think if you're Ryan Garcia, you go into that fight, and his trainers, that you go into that fight telling him this will probably go all the way, and it'll probably be hard to make things work on this guy for quite some time, so we need to bag up all these rounds we can. I'm not sure you'd get knockdowns or anything like that in the fight either. But yeah, I'd lean towards Ryan Garcia. But that would be a tough fight. It could go either way. And then we have a question from Cool Guy, who says, who you got in the Tyson versus Roy Jones fight? Okay, so for Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., coming up at the end of this month, I think it's on the 28th, I believe, they're going to fight. Yeah, so I'm wearing a Mike Tyson hoodie. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike is not the greatest boxer ever, but he's my favorite boxer ever. Okay, so first off, you're gonna, I'm biased. I am. I love Roy Jones too. He's a legend as well, but I'm biased. So just know that off the bat. I'm gonna lean towards Mike. But I will say, really, I do think Mike would win if they are really fighting. Yeah, this is a weird one. You have to commit. They're swearing they're going to fight and really fight and try to knock each other out in there. Then you still got the commission who allowed this match to take place saying, listen, these guys are older. They signed a contract for this bout agreement that they wouldn't try to knock each other out. They wanted them to wear headgear, for God's sakes, and then they finally talked the commission out of that. That they're like, yeah, you kind of can't. So this is can't knock each other out. This is a weird one. This is going to be a weird one. My prediction, first off, without who wins or what happens, is that this fight will either be fantastic to see both these legends get a chance for younger audiences who've never seen these guys fight in their prime. Even myself, I haven't been able to see much of their fights. You know, I loved Mike, but I caught some of his, you know, tail end fights on his decline. That doesn't count. So this even goes for myself, you know. I want to, you know, live in the moment of watching these guys, these legends really perform and fight and say that I got to see a great, you know, Mike Tyson fight when it happened. But it's either going to be that, it's either going to be fantastic that we get to see these guys and they really scrap it out in there for 8 rounds or less if we get a knockout. And in that case, if they fight, then I do think that Mike wins. I think Mike is a brute, and I think that we've seen Roy Jones get knocked the hell out, you know, time and again, which we've never seen from Mike. You know, and he's just a brute, and I think that he overwhelms Roy Jones Jr. trying to do cool stuff, but being older and being slower. The last thing to go is your power. The first thing to go is your speed and your agility and your reaction time, which is the things that Roy Jones Jr. uses in a fight. Mike Tyson uses, you know, reaction time to counter and stuff, but he's a power puncher and combinations, and that's the last thing to go. Mike looks shredded at this older age too. So I do think Mike, but it's either going to be that where they fight, and then yes, I think Mike gets it done for sure. Or it will be really sad, you guys, and I hope that it's not that. But just prepare yourselves so that we could hopefully get a pleasant surprise, but that we won't be super disappointed. I'll still be disappointed anyway, but I'm trying to prepare myself for this thing to be sad, you know, in all its hype. Because if they go out there and they just kind of dance around a bit, there's a good chance that happens, you guys, and I hate to say that, but there is. But yeah, again, I really appreciate all you guys watching last week. It makes me want to do more of these when I see the views going up a bit. We're a rocket ship. We're taking off, okay? Tell a friend. And please remember to hit that like button. I really appreciate you guys watching, but it only takes 1 second. If you click on the video and you're watching, just hit the thumbs up button real quick for me. That would be awesome. All right, and drop comments or, you know, topics or questions. Drop them in the comment section. Topics or questions, because I'll get to them, as I just did to right here. I'll get to your guys' stuff. I want more interaction like this. So yeah, till next time, another small video out at the later half of the week, previewing stuff for the fights ahead. All right, till next time, this is Tommy Tom O'Neill on Boxing. Fight fans and fan nets, stay loyal.